Here we go. So, welcome everybody to this regroup hour. It is absolutely wonderful to have you all here, and I hope you've got somewhere lovely to settle into and to listen to what we have coming up over the next sort of hour-ish. This is a regular time for joining together with others for some rest and relaxation and reflection. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Henny. I'm a coach and a retreat host. And I've got a special interest in how self-care helps us make and manage change. And that all feels very resonant with what we're experiencing today, of course, you know, this time that we're all going through. And through the regroup hour, we look at different facets of change through that lens of self-care, picking up on ideas and experiences that we explore, or that I explore more deeply through coaching, but also through the regroup retreats. And so it's a mix of tools and discussion and practice, and a chance just to step away from whatever else is going on in the world around us, and connect with others either virtually, as we're doing today with these live events with our special guests like Gemma, or metaphorically when we sort of listen back and listen again. So it truly is a time to regroup with ourselves, and also just to settle into whatever this time brings. So over the past couple of weeks, we've looked at some different tools that we can use to develop our resilience. And we've looked at lessons from psychotherapy, from voice work, and today we're here to focus on mindfulness with our wonderful guest teacher in the shape of Gemma. So this session builds on the one I did with the voice work therapist Abby, who's actually listening in today, and also with the original session where I talked through 10 behaviours that were identified by the American Psychological Society that help us build and access our resilience. So some of the feedback that we've had from those other two is one, so Abby and Henny, thank you so much. That's a lovely session. I can't wait for the next hour, which is this one. So I hope that you enjoy this one. And another sort of message that I had was, I think my main insight from your first session about resilience was that it might not be about being stronger. It might be about being softer or more vulnerable. And that last point touches on what for me is an essential element of any discussion about resilience, and that's the need for self-compassion. Now, if you were due to be with us last weekend, which is when this session was meant to be, then you might be aware that I had to practice some self-compassion when I made the decision to postpone this event because I wasn't well. And it was really interesting to see how my the show must go on driver came into some tension with my I need to care for myself driver. And it was a beautiful reminder for me, really, that resilience without compassion, it can be foolhardiness. And so I'm glad to say that I chose the compassionate route, and we postponed, and I thank Gemma as well for supporting me as I made that decision last week. So, and thank you so much for joining us today. As we move on with the regroup hour, we're going to be looking at a range of topics around communication and listening skills, and also a series on the menopause as well. And as always, that work will be anchored in self-care, so I'll share more about that at a later stage. And there's also a a half-day retreat coming up next Saturday, which may resonate with some of you, which is all around balance. How do we find and maintain balance? What does balance mean for us? And when we think about the changes that we're going through in our lives right now, it's connected with this idea of resilience, and sort of exploring that a little more deeply in a half-day retreat, which is actually next Saturday. So if you're interested in that, let me know. There are a couple of spaces left. So on to today's session with the wonderful, calm, gentle Gemma. Gemma is a mindfulness teacher and a positive psychology practitioner. She's an ICF accredited coach, that's the International Coach Federation, and she's also a TEDx speaker as well. I know you may want to check out her TEDx talk. She's been on a journey of personal self-discovery through using the tools, some of which she's going to share with us today, and they led her to setting up the happiness branch, which is helping people to flourish. Gemma uses this practice of mindfulness combined with positive psychology, and a line that I've taken actually from Gemma's website is this idea of seeing them as core tools to help you be at your best and perform at your best, building on what works for you already in a non-judgmental way and decreasing stress and anxiety. And I think those two sort of things around the non-judgment and having a kind of choiceful experience of them is really, that really resonates with me personally. So I first met Gemma a few years ago, not in person, but over the speaker in a large auditorium where she was leading a resilience shot for a group of financial services leaders. And sorry about this, my laptop's about to lose its power. I'm just going to plug in. She was leading a short mindfulness exercise for these financial services leaders, introducing the art of focusing on the present moment in order to build resilience. So who could be more perfect for us to be talking about this subject today? And the next time I met Gemma, we were both working as coaches, and we happened to be in adjacent rooms and ended up doing quite a lot of chatting and very much enjoyed each other's company, and that's really what led to us doing this session together and what led to me inviting her today. So resilience, for me, I think one of the best ways of thinking about it is that it helps us manage our emotional response to what's happening around us. It enables us to move forward without getting lost in things which might trip us up or trap us. And it's also a foundation stone to successful change. And when Gemma and I were discussing this session, we talked about that essential link between resilience and compassion. And Gemma used a beautiful phrase, which was mindfulness with kindfulness. So that's what we'll be hearing more of today. And it would be wonderful to get your thoughts around what comes up when you think of this idea of resilience with compassion. And if you would just sort of put something into the chat, just what does that mean to you? That would be wonderful. And we'll come back to those thoughts as we go through the session. And a really key thing really is that for me, resilience isn't about having a stiff upper lip. It's about a softened heart, no judgment, and it's about loving kindness, which I know Gemma's also going to talk about later. So before I hand over to her, I just want to kind of settle really with a reading. It's a My Darling Girl reading. And the invitation is just to take a little breath, and maybe if there's a window near you, just to sort of stare off out of the windows as I read. So, my darling girl, what a difference a day makes. that indelible mark of yesterday's commotion of emotion, softly, with the sun's rise, fades clear. Fear, shame, anger, doubt, anxiety, these all shall pass. Yet even as you feel their fleeting touch so keenly and ache for their sisters, joy, hope, faith, clarity, compassion, see they are each there to teach. Do you see, my love? They're mountains and valleys that line your path. They are all essential to your journey. Learning to accept their highs and lows, that is the lesson. Learning to remember this too shall pass, that is the lesson. Learning to love the lessons they teach, that is the lesson. This realization is an endless loop of realization that realization is an endless loop. Like every piece of knowledge learned is found in a vast library where we tirelessly reach for the same book that falls open to the same page. And as we read it, we say, this, yes, this I know. And even as we feel that spark of recognition, it's as though we've learnt it for the very first time. As I watch you flow through this vast expanse of knowledge, discovering what you have somehow always known, I see your endless cycle of learning, unlearning, and relearning. At times I stand with you, bathed in light on the mountainside. At others, I walk beside you through the shadow of the valley. Wherever you are on your journey, know you are not alone. Know that the sun always rises. Know that you choose the path that will take you to what you most need to know in the time you need it most. Ah, my love, that may be the most beautiful lesson of all. And so I'd like to hand over to the wonderful Gemma. And we've had a lovely message come through in the chat, Gemma, which you may like to build on, which is that resilience with compassion is being like the tree that flexes in the wind. Over to you.
Wonderful, thank you, Henny. And the person that wrote that comment may have watched my TED Talk, and if you haven't, then you must be extremely psychic, because that's exactly what it was all about. So I'm actually going to start with the tree. I was going to start with a little bit of an introduction about me, but I think I'll actually start with the tree. I think that leads us on really nicely to it. So why is a tree important? And I actually got bought a necklace that had a tree on it as a gift for my birthday a few years ago, and it was a gift from my sister-in-law, and it said, Gemma, you remind me of a tree. And I thought, okay, let's just go with it, this is a bit unusual. And it said, you're very calm, you're very grounded, and that's very much like the roots of a tree. And so, you know, very strong, no matter what happens, you've got that kind of calm groundedness to be around. But also you're like the tree because you reach up to the light and you're always looking for the positives, you're optimistic, and you like to learn and grow. So I am somewhat of a bit of a learning addict. So I'm always learning new things. And so, you know, reaching up to the light and learning and growing all the time, this kind of analogy of a tree. And then I had a story about Hurricane Katrina, and I don't know if anyone's heard that this happened in Hurricane Katrina. After the hurricane, there was devastation, you know, homes, lives lost. But when they went back after the hurricane, they found something quite unusual had happened. And they found that the oak trees were still standing. So everything else was gone other than these trees. And when they investigated, they found that the roots of the trees went deep underground and they connected to each other. And because they connected to each other, they were able to hold each other up through the storm. So when I heard this, I was like, wow, okay, this tree analogy is so much more powerful. I researched this further when I did my TED Talk, and I found there was a tree that survived 9/11 for the exact same reason as well. So everything that had happened to that tree, it had survived, and it's because of the root connection. So the things that I'm going to talk to you about today we can think of in terms of the tree. So we can think about the mindfulness kind of keeping us grounded and keeping us calm. We can think about the positive psychology elements in terms of, you know, looking for the light, things like gratitude and kindness that kind of bring that lightness to our lives. And then we've also got that social connection as well, which of course held the trees up against the storm. So if we are connected to each other, even if right now it's virtually, you know, that can really hold us up against the storms of life, that kindness and that compassion. So that I wasn't going to talk about the tree, so thank you, whoever's comment that was, because that brought me really nicely into that. So I've been on a bit of a journey with these tools. So when I first learned them, so it was about 2013, and I had a degree in psychology, but I had no idea how to really use it to help people. I was working in a kind of quite an IT-based environment. And when I discovered positive psychology, it really started to change and shift things in my life. I was a lot happier, I was a lot calmer, and it really, that's kind of the pivotal point, was about 2013 with this stuff, and that led me to mindfulness. So mindfulness was part of learning positive psychology, and I started to practice these tools, and I was noticing I was much calmer. My husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, said I was a much nicer person to be around, and was really starting to feel a difference. But my intent was actually learning them to help others. It never was about me. And then as I got deeper and deeper into learning mindfulness and ultimately becoming a mindfulness teacher, I realized I had huge amounts of anxiety, which I was just putting under the carpet. I was hugely anxious at work. You know, I'd go into meetings and I'd be feeling so anxious, my heart would be pounding, and I'd just be like, oh, everyone's nervous, you know, it's fine. But it really kind of unlocked for me that there was a lot more going on, and actually I did need these tools. So whilst initially it was about me thinking, how can I help others, what I unlocked was actually I did need them myself. So I've been on a huge journey applying them to me. And I think one of the biggest kind of learnings, which links us nicely onto kind of this resilience and compassion, is, and Henny put it really nicely, you can't have mindfulness without kindfulness. So because I've seen success in blending together mindfulness and positive psychology, you really cannot have one without the other. So mindfulness, the kind of definition of mindfulness is paying attention in the present moment, non-judgmentally. So yes, we can pay attention in the present moment. I can say, okay, I can see some trees outside my window. I can hear my little diffuser making a noise in the background. But being in the present moment doesn't necessarily kind of solve anything for me. It might build my awareness. So this is where positive psychology comes in, because positive psychology is about how do we leverage positive emotion in our lives. So it's been shown by science that if we bring more positive emotion into our lives, what happens is that fuels our brains, and it helps us to be more productive, to be more creative, and to switch off that fight or flight response. And in that definition of mindfulness, we've got this non-judgmental awareness. So with non-judgment, if we're truly not judging ourselves and we're truly not judging others, then that comes from a place of real kindness and real compassion. And if we can build on that kindness and compassion, what that is doing, and the neuroscience that sits behind that is feeding our brain. So it's giving our brain fuel. And then not only do we feel calmer and we feel happier, we experience more joy in the present moment, we're actually growing and fueling our brain to be able to do a bit more as well. So that's kind of how that blend of mindfulness and positive psychology come together. And I don't know if anyone has kind of heard, especially more in kind of spiritual areas, a lot of people talking at the moment about turning fear into love. Has anyone heard that at the moment? Yeah. So the reason for that, and I wanted to share a little bit of the science behind that, is because they simply can't exist in the brain together. So as soon as you turn on the curiosity of mindfulness and you start to become aware of what's going on, and then you bring that loving kindness in, it simply takes away the fight or flight response. So the more that you fuel yourself with love and kindness, the more the fight or flight response reduces. And that is why this compassionate resilience is really important, because if you are simply, and I am guilty of this, so for many years I pushed and pushed and pushed. So I am a very highly sensitive person, like right at the top of the highly sensitive person scale. And what was happening to me is I used to have to go to London with work. And of course, as soon as I stepped off the train in London, suddenly the hustle and bustle just became so overwhelming for me. Sometimes I would spend a few days in London and then I wouldn't sleep because I was just so overwhelmed by everything that was going on. And what I used to do was this really kind of gritty sense of resilience. So I used to say, come on, everyone else can do this. Don't be so silly, get on the train. And then probably, I would say 9 times out of 10, I would get on the train home from London and I would be crying on the train because it had just been too much for me. And I just got myself so stressed out and I'd pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. You know, there's moments where I could have maybe come home a little bit earlier. I could have maybe not gone. And I didn't. I continued to push through. So, you know, I'd heard this, you know, we all hear this phrase, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But actually, from what I've learned in the neuroscience or behind positive psychology, it's absolutely not the case. This you know, this compassionate resilience is the way forward. So as soon as I started to be kind to myself, and actually there were moments where I put my foot down with my boss at the time and said, I'm not going to London this week. I can't do it. I'd much prefer to do that over Skype, because what was happening was that I was cancelling weekend plans. So I was like having plans to see friends on weekends, and then I was having to cancel them because I'd been so burnt out during the week. So I was actually losing my weekends. But as soon as I started to be kind to myself and kind of honour who I was and kind of say, okay, so I've noticed this morning that I'm feeling anxiety in my chest. You know, the mindfulness has helped me to understand that, to really kind of tune into those early warning signs. And then what is it that I need to do today? So, okay, I'm going to go to London, but I'm going to have a cup of tea on the train. I'm not going to work on the train. I'm going to listen to a nice podcast and look out of the window. When I get there, I'm going to get a nice cup of tea rather than rushing into, you know, the training that I'm doing. And then I'm going to leave early. I'm going to set the boundary and say, actually, I'm going to leave at 3:00 because it's a good 2-hour journey back to Norwich. So that will then mean I can eat at a sensible time. I can then get to sleep at a sensible time. So as soon as I started to bring this kindness in, what I found was actually I was able to do more. So the more I was kinder to myself and I kind of honoured who I was, and maybe did less in some aspects of my life, I was actually able to do more. So I really felt like it was working. My brain was really being fueled. And the funny thing is as well, when you a lot of the time we're thinking of ourselves, right? So if you kind of set that kindful boundary, the thing is, most other people are thinking about themselves. So I used to think, oh my gosh, if I say no to this thing because I know that's right for me right now and I'm quite burnt out, what's that person going to think? And the amount of times actually nobody even really minded, or sometimes didn't even notice, didn't notice I was at a conference because there was thousands of other people there. So a lot of the time we're in our own heads, we're thinking about ourselves, and actually that is the same for other people as well. So setting those kind sort of boundaries to ourselves can really help. And that leads us on nicely into loving kindness and what loving kindness is. And for those who joined the session with Abby, I was going to say last week, it's the week before, Abby did a little bit of loving kindness with the breath work there, which was really lovely. And loving kindness has been shown scientifically to be the most powerful form of mindfulness. It's been shown to have all sorts of health benefits for us. It helps our vagus nerve and the way our heart regulates our immune system. And if you're interested in finding out a little bit more about it, there's a wonderful book by a lady called Barbara Fredrickson, who is one of my favourite people. And she's done a whole load of work on how the expression of love actually can help our bodies physically and mentally. So the teachings that I do around this are kind of based on some of that scientific background from Barbara. But really, you know, it does have roots. It has roots in Buddhism. That's where it ultimately comes from. But there's been loads of positive psychology, neuroscience around it. So this is effectively going back to that, turning that fear into love. This is exactly what we are doing, because if we are experiencing that feeling of loving kindness, whether that is, sometimes it can be hard to bring that, to turn that towards ourselves. And I know, Henny, that's something you talk about in your retreats. But, you know, whether it's to ourselves, whether it's to others, whether if I'm giving loving kindness to this plant behind me, you know, or a pet, then, you know, it helps to really create these really strong connections, and to help our health as well. So yeah, if we can turn on this kind of resilient compassion and this love, it really has so many benefits. So enough of me talking. I think it'd be really nice to do a meditation. So I'm going to do a kind of Gemma special today, kind of a cocktail of meditation for you today. We're going to do a bit of a body scan meditation. So we're going to just bring ourselves into the body and focus on different parts of the body. And then we're going to bring some loving kindness into it. So you're going to get that blend of mindfulness and positive psychology today, which is kind of ultimately that sort of blend, that cocktail that I teach, and is the tree really. It's the elements of what helps us to be like a tree. So if you haven't done any mindfulness or you haven't done a body scan meditation before, don't worry. I will talk you through everything that you need to do. And you may notice that your mind wanders off. And that's what our minds do. I used to have a really, really busy mind. I still do sometimes. And so it doesn't matter. I'll remind you to bring your attention back to your body. And it doesn't matter how many times you have to do that. That wonderful neuroscience that I talked about, that happens each time we bring our attention back. Okay, so don't worry. It's not some, you know, some sort of like Buddha state where, you know, there's nothing in our minds. It's actually bringing the attention back. And so I'd like you to get comfortable, and you can, if you prefer to lay down, feel free to lay down for this practice and get comfortable. The most important thing is being comfortable. So remember, it is about this compassionate resilience and kindfulness. So as a teacher, I always talk about the kindness being first. So, you know, where's the discomfort in your body, and being kind throughout. So if you feel any discomfort as we do this practice as well, feel free to move or stretch or make a noise if you need to, whatever it is that you need. I'd like you to just really honour yourselves in this moment. So getting comfortable. I'm just going to take a sip of water or a giant gulp. So when you are comfortable, I'd like you to just start by taking a nice few deep breaths, just breathing in through the nose and breathing out through the mouth. Just gently bringing you into the present moment. And if you wish, you can just gently place a hand on your stomach just to notice those deeper mindful breaths. So just starting to notice the quality of your breathing today. And just noticing your breathing, however it is today. And perhaps you'll start to notice any thoughts or distractions, but whatever you notice is right for you. So I'd like you to just notice and try not to judge. So just being non-judgmental about what you notice today. And in a moment, we're going to just gently scan through the body, starting with the top of the head. And just remembering that if your mind wanders off, or you are distracted, or you hear noises, just use this as a reminder to bring your attention back to your body. So just starting now with the top of your head. And whatever you notice is right for you. And then just gently moving your awareness down your face to your eyes. And just noticing any tightness or tension in the eyes and just seeing if you can let it go. And if it's comfortable for you to do so, I'd like you to just start to tune in to some gratitude. So just bringing a sense of gratitude to the eyes for everything they enable you to see every day. And then just gently moving your awareness down your face to your nose. And perhaps you can notice a sensation of breath in your nose. Whatever you notice is right for you. And just bringing a sense of gratitude to the nose and how it gives you this sense of smell and the wonderful smells that you can experience. And just remember, if your mind has wandered off, you have become distracted, just gently and kindly bringing your attention back to the body. As you move your awareness to your ears, and whatever you notice here is right for you. You may be able to notice your ears or maybe not. But just bringing a sense of gratitude to the sense of sound. And then just gently moving your awareness down to your mouth and jaw. Just noticing any tension in the jaw, just seeing if you can just let it go. And bringing a sense of gratitude for the sense of taste. And then just bringing your awareness to your whole face. And your whole head. And just remember, if your mind has wandered off or you have become distracted, that's okay. Just gently and kindly guiding your attention back to your body. As you move your awareness down to your throat and your neck. And bringing a sense of gratitude to this area and how it enables you to have a voice. And then just gently moving your attention down to your shoulders. If you notice any tightness in the shoulders, just adjusting your posture if you need to bring in that kindness and compassion. And moving your awareness around to your chest. And just becoming aware of your heart. And perhaps you can notice your heart beating. But whatever you notice is right for you. And just bringing a sense of gratitude for all of the organs in this area of your body and everything they do for you each day. And if your mind has wandered off, just remembering to gently and kindly guide it back to your body. As you move your awareness down your arms, to your hands, and bringing a sense of gratitude for everything that your arms and hands enable you to do. And then just gently moving your awareness to your stomach area. Just sending gratitude to all of the organs in this area. And then just gently moving your awareness round to your back. And just seeing if you can notice the full length of your spine. And bringing a sense of gratitude to the spine and everything that it does for you. And just remember, if your mind wanders off, or you are distracted, or anything that you notice, perhaps any physical sensations that you notice, just use them as a reminder to just gently and kindly guide your attention back to your body. As you move your awareness now down to your hips, tops of your legs, and to the bottoms of your legs, and just bringing a sense of gratitude for the legs and everything they enable you to do. And again, just remembering, if you've got lost in a train of thought, just not judging it and just kindly bringing the attention back to your body. As you move your awareness now down to your feet, and I'd like you to just tune in with the sensation of touch with your feet against the floor or the surface where they are right now. And just notice how your feet ground you, a bit like the roots of a tree, holding you very safely in this present moment. And I'd like you to start to imagine You've got roots coming out of your feet, a bit like a tree. And I would like you to just consider all of the people who these roots are connected to. All of the people you are connected to. How we're all connected here. And spreading those tree roots even wider, connecting with the whole country. And then gradually across the whole world. And when these roots are really strong, I would like you to just pay attention to your heart. And I would like you to notice a light or a colour, or perhaps it's a feeling for you that represents love in your heart. I'd like you to just start to notice this light. And just start to spread this light through your body. Filling your entire body. Getting stronger and stronger, brighter and brighter. And when you have filled your whole body, you can imagine it going through these tree roots, sending out this love and kindness. Sending it out to anyone in your immediate connections. And sending it wider, sending this love out to the whole world. I'd like you to imagine that there's a dial, and the dial can turn this light intensity and this feeling up even stronger, and just turn that dial right up to 10. And just imagine even stronger the sensation of this light filling your body and sending out to everyone else. So when this image or this feeling is as strong as it can get, for now, just let it go. And just come back into your body for a moment. I'd like you to just notice this sensation of touch again. So notice the weight of your body. Notice which parts of the body are touching each other. Touching perhaps the chair or the floor. Now that we've built our awareness and we've sent out loving kindness, I'd like you to just ask yourselves this question. What is it that I need to do to be kind to myself today? And it doesn't matter if the answer doesn't come straight away. Simply asking the question, what is it that I need to do to be kind to myself today? And then when you're ready, just gently bringing your attention back into the room, wiggling your fingers and toes, just bringing yourself back into the room, having a stretch if you need to, and opening your eyes when you are ready. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that practice. And I just like to finish with saying that this practice has really got me through some difficult times. And there's a lot of people using mindfulness at the moment with a kind of I'm feeling overwhelmed, so I'm going to do some mindfulness now. But just want to say really strongly, the more that you can create a habit with this, the better. So I moved house a month ago, just when we went into lockdown. And from day one of being in this house, I slept 8 hours at night. And that is completely unheard of for me. But that is because I've been building this practice up as a habit. So I've been building this mindfulness muscle. So I'd just like to leave you with that thought of what you're going to do to be kind to yourself. What can you do to bring this kindness, to bring this compassion in as a habit? Because it will really help you both on a physical, mental, social connection level. So I'll just leave you with that thought, and I will hand you back over to Henny.
Oh, Gemma, I'm a little loath to speak. That was beautiful. What a beautiful meditation that was, and I love the way you brought the gratitude into our body. I think actually, I'm sure I have, come across that practice before, but it felt like the first time. It was wonderful. Thank you so much. When you said about our thoughts drifting, there was a thought I had was, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to finish this session. Just going to have to sort of drift off into a lovely mindful place. But I wanted to, a couple of things that you talked about earlier that I thought may be nice to sort of just touch on before we go today. And one was this point around helping ourselves, beginning with ourselves. And when you talked about when you first sort of learnt your practice, or first began learning your practice, how it started as something that you wanted to do to support others, and then the realization that actually you really needed to do it to support yourself. I think it's such a beautiful observation, and actually we always have to start with ourselves. And there's that lovely analogy, which kind of these days sort of seems a little interesting actually, but the lovely analogy around that, on an aeroplane we put the oxygen mask on ourselves first before helping somebody else, because actually we have to support ourselves first in order to be able to be present for others. So I really think that's such an important part of that resilience with self-compassion. Kind of comes back to a lot of the stuff that Abby talked to us about as well, and also that the psychotherapeutic work from the session that I led. There was also something else around that this is a marathon, not a sprint. This work, this sort of practice, like building the daily habit, even if it's a minute or 5 minutes, or 10 minutes, each day, just having that daily habit of coming into ourselves and coming into our breath is a really beautiful thing. Yeah, and the last one was something to do with, with this practice, with this, we set these, we can find ourselves setting these goals for ourselves. And then we can find ourselves like beating ourselves up when we don't achieve these goals. And when these goals are habits of kindfulness to ourselves, so that we find ourselves going, oh, I'm no good, I didn't do my mindful practice. It'd be lovely just to sort of get a few thoughts from you on that point, actually, before we close, if that's okay.
That's a great point, and that's something that I've been guilty of in the past, almost like, right, I've got these practices now, and they almost become another to-do list. and then you're not being kind because you're not being kind to yourself about not doing them. So it's about kind of meeting yourself with that compassion as well. And I find this a lot on my course. So because it's an 8-week mindfulness course, we start to kind of, we start off gently, and then we get to about week 3 or 4, and what happens then is I think the novelty starts to wear off a little bit, and then life gets in the way, and then people start to beat themselves up about it and go, oh my goodness, like, is everyone else on the course like is doing more than me, and I didn't meditate this morning, oh no, I've ruined it. And that seems to come up a lot, and it's just really about then kind of it tends to come up about week 3, and then in week 4 we bring in this, okay, well, this is another difficulty that we need to then deal with and explore. So it really is, not about creating a well-being to-do list, but it's more about kind of creating these habits. And you will find, so it takes 21 days to build a habit. So it might feel a little bit well-being to-do list, but as long as you're doing it with the right intent to build the habit, then when that habit is built, it's there. So you'll be out, out walking the dog, and you're being as mindful as the dog is, because a lot of the time the dog, right, is thinking about the trees and squirrel, whereas we're thinking about work, and we're generally thinking about past or future. So it's not about beating ourselves over the stick with these things, but it's more about creating the habit, which is why we want it to become more of a practice rather than a to-do list.
Beautiful. I think there's something there as well about not avoiding the lure of comparison as well. Just picking up on something you said about sort of when people are sort of, when we're learning this stuff, we're kind of watching others. So there's the comparison either with an idealized version of ourselves or an idealized version of other people. So
that then is judgment, and we're not being mindful then, because to be mindful we have to be truly non-judgmental. So 99% of the time, if people are struggling with mindfulness, it's because they're being judgmental, usually about themselves, but sometimes about others as well, doing that comparison thing.
I think, yes, that whole thing around the challenge of self-care, actually, often the whole challenge around that is around judgment in some way. Be a really nice thing to do another regroup hour on just that topic of judgment. Could be rather wonderful. So thank you so much, Gemma, and thank you so much for sharing an actual practice. I feel like that was a real gift. I feel like doing these regroup hour sessions, particularly these live ones, is like, it's terribly selfish of me in a really beautiful way, because I get to experience the lovely gifts myself, and that's I'm very grateful for that. There were 2 other points I wanted to make. One was a while ago I came across a beautiful short piece on YouTube by Eve Ensler, who's the lady who wrote the Vagina Monologues, and she's talking to some women in Africa about how they feel about their bodies, and the punchline is, love your tree. And I'm going to share the clip, and I think you will enjoy it, and it feels very resonant considering the work that you do, Gemma. But this idea of like our body is a beautiful tree. It's no better or worse than any other tree, than any other body. Love your tree. And then when I was thinking about this session, and I was kind of looking through some materials and looking at my bookshelf, and what did I see, Gemma?
That's amazing.
Tree. There we go. So
I wasn't planning for today to talk about the tree actually today at all. So that was just amazing how that happened.
Well, it feels very resonant, I think, with I loved your analogy of the tree roots connecting, and right now, these days, that feels very strong. And also, it is one of the items that of those 10 traits that help us build resilience. the first one is about being connected. So that idea of us all having these roots underground and connected with others is beautiful. So that's it. I think we are nearly at the end of our hour. And I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who has joined us. And I'm sure you've enjoyed listening to Gemma as much as I have. And if you'd like to explore any of these ideas further, there are a few sort of additional resources. There's on the Regroup website, there's a free little mini course all around resilience, which goes into those 10 core behaviours a little bit more deeply, with some exercises that may be useful, you may find interesting. You can obviously also work with Gemma, either one-to-one or on the courses that she talked about, and learn the habits, learn the practices, under her beautiful, calm and expert guidance. And then there's also, if you're looking for kind of one-to-one support, there's myself, or there are things like the group sessions, the regroup retreats. So particularly that next one on next Saturday that may be of interest to you if you want to go in a little bit deeper to some of these thoughts around balance. So just leaves me to say a very, very warm thank you and a warm farewell until next time. And to Gemma's question about what are you going to do that's kind for yourself today, I might not get this podcast sent out this afternoon. I'm just saying, it kind of hit a nerve for me. I'm going out and I'm going to go and lie underneath an oak tree is what I'm going to do. So I wish you the most beautiful afternoon, and I'm going to close the recording now and then come back into the main group. Okay, so take care and thank you.